It's live.
Okay.
Hello everybody, my name is John Cogley. I'm the owner of Daniel Smith, and today our talk is brought to you by the environmental friendly iron oxides, which I will go over next week. If you're interested in learning about those, they are on our website. They're a beautiful family of colors with a phenomenal story behind them. Let's begin with granulation. This is something I'm asked about quite a bit. Why do colors granulate? And is it only the Primitex, or do other colors granulate? Well, what is granulation? Here's an example of granulation. It's a beautiful, beautiful effect. And it can happen in the Primitech, which are true minerals. It can occur in synthetics. And it can happen in single pigment colors. So I wanted to show you each one of those. So here's hematite. Hematite is this mineral right here. And it gives us beautiful, beautiful granulation. And the reason it does that is because of differential specific gravity. Different elements within the hematite have different weights. And because they have different weights, they fall on the paper differentially. The lighter ones stay up on top and float. The middle-sized ones kind of stay in the middle, and the heavy ones flow down to the bottom. So when you use enough water, they really, really flow well and give fantastic granulation. They also happen within the synthetics, and a great example of that is Moonglow. And Moonglow is made up of 3 pigments. It's made up of anthracenoid red, viridian, and ultramarine blue. Those 3 pigments, we mix them dry to make a homogeneous pigment blend. We add our gum arabic, our distilled water, and that creates the paint. The neat thing about that, when you as an artist put that to paper, the different weights of the particle allow them to go to different levels. Again, that specific gravity issue. And the lighter ones, the anthracenoid red, kind of stays up at the top, the viridian in the middle, and the ultramarine goes to the bottom, which gives great, great flow and causes granulation in synthetics. The last one, which is extremely interesting, is called Lunar Black. And the reason that Lunar Black is such an interesting color and high, high granulation, it's a single pigment. All the particles are the same size. All the particles are the same shape. So you wouldn't expect any type of granulation. So why then does it granulate? It's one of the few colors, and not the only color, that single pigment that does this. And that's because the particles of Lunar Black are so small, they're 1 micron, that they repel each other. And because they repel each other, they have this fantastic granulation. So that's kind of granulation in a nutshell. Very, very beautiful effect. Very great to play with it and to experience it. So if you haven't done so, I'd really recommend it. One of the questions I was last week, and I love your questions. I go through when we're done and I read them over. I see what I can answer. I'll either get back to you in Facebook or I'll get back to you on the site. Hello, Pablo. Is viriditur. And the question is, what is kind of the history of viriditur? Can it be made by a single pigment? And the answer to that is no longer. Viriditur actually came from France, and it was called green of earth. The pigment was a basic copper carbonate. And in the old days, they used azurite. As you may know, that we used to have azurite and malachite as 2 of our colors. They are copper-containing minerals. In history, it was a mix, and nowadays, you can no longer find that. So ours is actually a mix of pigments to create the viriditur. Another question from last week was cerulean. and cerulean chromium as well. Well, cerulean is PB35, pigment blue number 35. And it comes, probably two manufacturers manufacture cerulean PB35, but the cerulean chromium is actually made by many, 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 many companies, 30, 40, 50 companies. Hello, Angela. And not only do that many companies make the cerulean chromium, but even within a company can make 8 or 9. So what that's telling us is that there's many shades for the cerulean chromium. Many, many, many shades. So even though somebody may use the same names, they're not necessarily the same in color or shade. Another question that was asked last week was about parylene. And parylene are a very interesting class of pigments. Parylene were originally made for the automobile, for the automobile manufacturers to paint their cars. The unique thing for us as a manufacturer of watercolors is that parylene, because they're made for the automobile industry, they're made to be made within a solvent. They're not readily dispersible within a water medium, i.e. watercolors. So once we purchase parylene, there's a huge amount of chemistry behind it to make the parylene, which is solvent-based, behave within a water base. But they are very, very beautiful colors. They're extremely high performance. They can be very, very high staining. And again, they're very, very strong because they're made for the automobile industry. They have high light fastness. These are colors that will last a long, long, long time, even in bright sunlight. So that's parylene. Another question I was asked last time, which I thought was very good, unfortunately I experienced it, which is not necessarily good for me, is why do certain colors become unavailable? And a lot of that deals with the automobile industry again. The automobile industry is the largest buyer of pigment. And because they're the largest buyer of pigment, they really determine and dictate what the manufacturers of pigment make. So as we as customers get disinterested in a car, then the car cars in those colors and it's continued and therefore it goes away. A great example of that has been the Quinacridone Gold. Quinacridone Gold stopped being made about 18 years ago. Prior to that, it was a Toyota color, and a lot of the colors, if you remember, 18, 20 years ago, was really pretty gold. That was Quinacridone Gold. We bought 15 years worth, and we ran out 2 years ago. There, I think it went back. Well, it's back again. Sorry, everybody, because literally everybody in the world is at home. Our internet connections worldwide issues. My volume is up as high as it'll go. Let me raise it some more. So will quinacridones be available again? Right now, we're using a blend for Quinacridone Gold. That is our most popular color. The second is Quinacridone Burnt Orange. Yeah, so I'm sorry that we're having internet. My speed is actually 1 gigabyte. It's fiber optic, so it's interesting why I'm having issues here. So that's why colors become unavailable. And what I do is I make it a point to notify you as artists when something might be running out so you can purchase it. Another question from last time, which is, what is the difference between a dye and a pigment? A dye is, by its very nature, fugitive. And in solution, it totally goes and dissolves. That's really kind of the definition of a dye. It dissolves within its own matrix. Pigment, even if it dissolves within its own matrix, after a while, it will actually start to fall out and precipitate on the bottom. All dyes, by definition, are fugitive. When people say it's a permanent dye, they're talking about printing ink, like books, or clothing. They're not talking about what we do as manufacturers of art materials or you as an artist. Dyes are all fugitive. So I really enjoy talking with all of you. I hope you're all safe. All your families are okay. Please, I spend time after reading all of your messages. If there's something that you would like to know, please ask me. I will get back to you either in this venue or I will get back to you through Messenger or Facebook. Ask questions. Questions are really, really good. If you've missed any part of this, I will post it. I'm sorry the internet connection goes in and out. While we have very, very fast internet, it's 1400 here in Seattle, and I think everybody, literally everybody, is talking to somebody on the internet. It's such a great, great tool. Cheryl Wright, I love Quinacridone Gold. I have it on all of my 18 palettes. Cheryl, that's fantastic. How about a color that you've always wanted to know about? Samil is watching. Great. So I didn't think I was going to finish up so quickly. Again, next week we'll talk about the environmental friendly oxides. They're very beautiful colors. They have a unique story. If you have ever seen carpet molding, yep, I will find out about that. They have a very unique story. They're really the beautiful colors of Denmark and Norway. They're beautiful for the top of roofs, etc. Heidi talks about opera pink, which is her favorite color. I love opera pink too, Heidi. It actually makes me feel good when I see it. It's such a bright and pretty color. It's one of our few fugitive colors. 30 years in full sunlight. More than that if protected with UV glass. Angela couldn't live without Quin Gold or Moonglow. Moonglow is a phenomenal color. Moonglow has a sister color called Shadow Violet. One of our chemists gave the batch, the ticket, which has the formulation, to one of our batch makers, and the batch maker used, instead of using anthracenoid red, they used transparent orange. And the chemist failed the batch, which means he held the batch, and then he looked at it and said, this is a really awesome color. So we gave it a different name called Shadow Violet, and it's one that I think you would really, really like. And I will show it to you next week. I'll hold it up on the screen and show you what it looks like. Lapis, a question from Caroline about lapis. Lapis is a very, very, very blue. It's a very, very light color. People think that it's really, really dark, but it's not. Lapis is roughly about $4,000 a pound. So we use real lapis because I process it. I either get it from Afghanistan or from Chile. It takes a lot of work to process lapis. But at the end of the day, lapis is a very, very light color. When you see it in museums, the one thing that you have to remember is the minute you see dark, dark blue lapis in museums, it was done by either governments or people of great, great, great wealth. Because lapis in that time was the same price as gold. And if you buy 90% pure, you're paying $16,000, $18,000 a pound. It's unbelievably expensive material. So it actually is a very light baby blue. I can color film binder. So sometimes you can have binder. Where you get binder mostly is in the Primitex. And that's because they have high specific gravity. They're so heavy that in transit, because we fill them from the bottom to the top and then turn them around, the gum arabic the weight of the Primitech pushes some of the gum arabic that's not in solution out of solution. You don't need it. You can just throw it away. The particle of the pigment particle will always hold on to the amount of gum arabic that it needs. You don't need to save it. George Politis asked about Cascade Green. Cascade Green is a very interesting color, and I will show that to you next week. Cascade Green is what's called a co-precipitated pigment. It's listed as one pigment, but in actuality, it's two pigments that are locked together. It's called co-precipitation. The neat thing is, when you lay a water line down, and then put a little bit of the Cascade Green on both ends, you would see that co-precipitation come apart. And you would see light yellow, a little bit of green, a little bit of blue. It's really a fabulous, fabulous pigment to play with. Jackie says she loves it. I love it too, Jackie. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. I think next week I'm getting questions about iridescent. I'll go over special. Please ask me questions, things that you want to know. I'm not an artist, so there's people that are on the site right now who are phenomenal artists, but I can answer the chemistry, the physics, and the manufacturing ability of how things are made. It's something that I very, very, very much love. So with that, I want to wish all of you such happiness in your life. I hope you're able to see, as I look outside my window, the world is still full of beauty. We won't be behind doors forever. We will be able to get back to our lives, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And my friend Latiza made this for me after everybody said, hold it in reverse. And so there it is. I look to seeing all of you next week. Thank you all so very, very much. John Cogley signing out.